further ado, we'll just go ahead. I'd like to introduce our moderator this evening. This is Mr. Mark Minner. He is not only a Zionsville resident, but also the voice of Butler men's basketball. Hopefully you followed their ride this season through March Madness. I'm a Bulldog, so I got to get the plug in there, but that was pretty exciting. So this will be his second time moderating for us, and he does a really great job. Just for the format a little bit, and Mark can explain as well, we kind of adjusted things a little bit due to the number of candidates that we have and the number of seats that we have. So we'll start with the clerk-treasurer's race. All responses are 1 minute. Julie has a time there. We'll both be timing, and we'll hold up a sign when we get about halfway, and then we'll call time to wrap up their thoughts. We'll do first clerk-treasurer, then we'll do the opposed races for town council, and then the 3 unopposed candidates for town council, same questions. So that's a little bit about the format for this evening. Questions that are asked were created by the Times Sentinel staff based on input from readers, both written questions and some phone calls and input that we'd had. So that's where the questions for this evening were derived. So thanks again for coming. Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greta. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming out. My job is to keep things moving efficiently for all of you so we can get on with our evenings and hear from the candidates. So without further ado, as Greta mentioned, because of time constraints, we'll keep responses to a minute. There's 3 different rounds for each of the different positions. The first is just going to be an opening statement. The second will be a general question, and then the third round will be a questions more specific to the office. So we'll get underway right now. The first position that we've got up here today is the clerk-treasurer, and Amy Lacey and Candace Ulmer are the 2 candidates. So Amy, we'll start first with you for an opening statement.
Okay, thank you. My tenure as deputy clerk means that I've already been working with most aspects of the clerk-treasurer's office. I think that my knowledge and my experience would allow for a very smooth transition. I know that our town currently enjoys very good financial health. That's a big part of what makes Zionsville such a great place to work and live, raise a family, run a business. It's also what makes us so attractive to prospective business leaders and prospective new residents. And that's really important because we need that if we're going to keep our town and our economy vibrant. So I would strive to maintain and even grow that financial health by working closely with our town council and adhering to the same high standards of efficiency and fiscal responsibility.
Time.
But
thank you.
Okay.
Candace?
Hi, thank all of you for coming out this evening. My name is Candace Ulmer. I started on my political path in 2006 as a Union Township trustee. I won election. As a trustee, you're basically the CFO and CEO of a township. So I did many clerk-treasurer, the same, prepared the budget, the same things we do today in a clerk-treasurer's office. I was instrumental in the reorganizing between Eagle Union and the town of Zionsville, and then I ran for I ran for town council in 2008 and been on there since then. We have done a great job. I think we have many new things with technology and everything that we have to do more to take us into the foresight into the future. I also think there are some statutes to me that are a little antiquated in how the clerk-treasurer has to do things, and those are my highest priorities to try and get those changed and be cost-effective for us.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the second round, the more general questions, and Candace, we'll start with you on this one. Why are you running for this office?
I am running for this office because I believe in the financial to solidify it for the town of Zionsville. I think we have, with property tax caps, we do a big tightrope between our budget, our rates, and our property tax circuit breaker loss. And I think the town needs to be fiscally in health, not just in our bond issues, but in the way we're doing things. And basically, I felt the residents should be representative until we hear something from the courts instead of 12 precinct committeemen choosing who was your clerk-treasurer.
Thank you. Amy, same question.
I would agree with what Candace says. I think that is all very important. There's another thing that draws me to want to run for the clerk-treasurer position, other than just wanting to grow my service to the town. But There are many other aspects of the clerk treasurer's office because we provide so many services. So in addition to the financial management and record keeping, there are also all the other services we provide, which kind of makes us the face of Zionsville. And I think that's really important. So I could offer strong leadership to our office staff so that we could consistently provide an open, welcoming, customer service-focused office to our constituents, because these people aren't just our businesses, our residents, they're our neighbors. And I'm just committed to providing and serving my neighbors with integrity and honesty and efficiency.
Thank you. Second question of the second round, and Amy, we'll start with you first. How would you make the clerk treasurer's office more efficient, especially in relation to other town departments?
That is a good question. I think the first thing, as the town has grown, the clerk treasurer's office and their responsibilities and duties have really grown. One thing that I think that we need is more technology. We've done a good job keeping up with it, but we don't want to get in a place where it's just antiquated. So I would bring in more technology, again, working closely with the town council, doing it in a fiscally responsible way, but I think by doing that, we will be able to not just serve our internal customers, but we'll be able to offer better convenience to our citizens and our businesses.
Thank you. Candace?
I have to agree with Amy. Excuse me. I think technology is one of our biggest issues. In some departments, we still do, I believe, paper time cards. Really getting it to where we can accept credit card payments for services. There are just so many things we need to do there. The paper handling alone, I think, needs to be looked at, and there's such a great opportunity on technology. And again, I think we have to, as I said, I think we have to be proactive with some statutes that almost force town councils to operate in an antiquated measure have to be tackled and rectified.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on to the third round, which is questions more pertinent to the specific position. And we'll start first, Candace, with you. You each have experience with the town already, although in different capacities. How would that particular experience help you as clerk treasurer?
Well, I think the biggest thing that helps me with clerk treasurer is I do understand the flow chart of it. Let's put it that way. I think the other thing that helps me is, and one of my biggest strengths is, I'm a budget person, and I think being able to give the town council and department heads the resources they need in order to make the good financial decisions is the best way we can get ourselves propelled into the future and a good be fiscally sound all the way.
Thank you. Amy?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So you each have experience with the town already, although in different capacities. How would that experience help you as clerk treasurer?
Well, I think my experience, as I said before, I'm very familiar with most of the aspects of the office itself. I know there are many facets to the office, not just the budget, not just the financial. So I think that would help me a lot. Also, I have good working relationships with our other departments and our department heads. I think that would be a benefit. And I think I can work well with the town council, and I just think it would be a very smooth transition.
Great. Thank you so much. Second question of the third round, and Amy, we'll start with you here on this one. So how do you see the role of the clerk treasurer changing as the town grows and changes?
Well, it already has changed so much from back in the days when we had Bev Harves, and she basically ran the whole town herself, and then she had a couple of people who worked for her. It just, even since I've been there for the last 10 years, I've seen it grow and change. I think it becomes more the clerk treasurer not really physically doing all of the work, him or herself. There are things that more technology, again, is needed and is used and is already being used, and so that the work can be done by other departments too. So it's not all just in the clerk-treasurer's office.
Thank you. Candace?
I think when we're looking at the future, and most of us really knows, municipalities are very antiquated, unfortunately, by the way they have to do things by statute. And even though we might say, well, that's out of my realm or whatever, I don't think it is, because I think we have to be proactive, not only for our office, but for the town, for the departments. And I think we have to be very active on that side to change the things to where we can reap the efficiency benefits that are out there that we are forced almost by statute to still do in a very old and antiquated manner.
Great. Thank you so much. The last question for both of you is this, and Candace, we'll start with you on this one. The position requires attention to detail for payroll, invoices, town court, etc. What qualifications in that respect do you bring to the office?
Well, again, as trustee, when I was as a trustee, and most of it, you have programs that you are required to use for all types of input on any type of level. They're dictated by the state boards of accountants, basically, of what you have to. I do have an accounting background. I have worked with that before with Peachtree and many other accounting systems. But again, I think the thing that happens is things are a little old and slow the way we are forced to currently work. And I think I have the foresight and the ability to try and help us get good technology that pushes us further into the future.
Thank you. Amy?
Okay, again, would you?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. The position requires attention to detail for payroll, invoices, town court, etc. What qualifications in that respect do you bring to the office?
Okay. Well, again, I have been doing this job for many years, and specifically the court, and have worked with the payroll and the other things you mentioned. So I have great attention to detail with that. I also have a background as a licensed branch manager, which those same skills were very important there, and I oversee the payroll there, the accounts payable, as well as the entire office staff. So I think those kind of things would really help me in that regard.
Great. Thank you so much. Amy Lacey, Candace Ulmer, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. We'll get set up here for the Zionsville Town Council. All right, we will keep things moving here. So we have two different blocks to the Zionsville Town Council. And we'll start first with this group of 8 individuals. Brett Ashton is joining us, Andrew Ausch, David Boggs, and then you've got our friends Brent Brewer, Joshua Garrett, Elizabeth Hopper, Tom Schuler, and Kevin Spees. Thank you all so much for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll get right into it. Same format. You're going to have a 1-minute introduction, and then we'll have general questions for 1-minute responses each, and then more specific questions in the third round as well. All of these 60-second responses. We've got our timekeepers right here to keep everything in order. And Brett, we'll start first with you with the opening statement.
Okay. Well, first, thank you to everybody for coming out this evening and caring about our community enough to do that. I'm Brett Ashton. I thought I'd tell you briefly who I am and why I think I'm qualified to be your representative in District 2. I'm a solo dad to 15-year-old triplets at home who are in Zionsville Community Schools. Lived here for about 13 years, and I'm a practicing attorney. Part of my practice involves representing clients in the legislative process, and so I have a significant amount of experience in politics, but not as a politician. And frankly, I'm not going to be a politician if elected to this seat. I have some pretty concrete ideas about what I'd like to see for the future of the town of Zionsville, and I want to hopefully find a way to serve and to discuss how to find a way to balance Zionsville's historic charm and making sure we can invest in our infrastructure and expand our tax base.
Thank you very much. Andrew?
Thanks. Thank you all for coming. And my name is Andrew Ausch. I am a candidate in District 4. I am a 10-year resident of Zionsville. I live in Sugarbush with my wife and my mostly lovely daughter. She's not mad at me. 2 dogs. and I go to St. Alphonsus Church, where I'm quite involved. I'm on the Finance Council there. I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus. Some of you might have attended the Oktoberfest that we have every year. That was my deal, and I still chair that. I want to be a member of the town council because I think I can bring something to the council. I am a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 22 years. I do not practice in this area, and I am not involved in politics. And sometimes I think that's good. I think you want fresh faces, fresh ideas. I run my own practice, however. I am a business owner. I'm a small business owner, like many of the people in this town. And I think that is important to have that aspect on the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1 minute. David?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank everybody for showing up, and I want to thank my family, Amy, my children, wife, and Kaylee, who are up front here, for allowing me to think I'm in charge and run for office. I first experienced Zionsville in 1983 when I opened and managed the Noble Romans. I joined the Zionsville JCs at that time and got to meet a lot of people through Clothe a Child, Junior Miss, and sitting in the Santa House back on Main Street during that day. In late 90, we moved to Ohio. We decided to come back to Indiana. We looked at Carmel, we looked at Fishers, we looked at other communities, but we knew that Zionsville was going to be the place we wanted to raise our children. It was because of our friends, because of the school system, because of the easy access to retail and services, and then finally it was because of the ambiance and the heritage of Zionsville, the mixture of residential, commercial, the agricultural and equestrian areas that truly made us want to raise our family here. So for residents of District 3, I do want to be your voice in the town council. I want to continue to listen to you, and I want to stand up and speak for you.
Thank you very much. Right.
Good evening. Thank you guys all for coming. And my son for coming and sitting so quietly back there and doing such a great job. I've lived on and off, and my wife, my beautiful wife. I almost got in trouble with that. But we've lived on and off in Zionsville for 12 years, and I say that because when I first got married, when we first got married, we rented a house right off Oak Street for a couple years. I worked as a bookkeeper for the Remax, and in college I worked for R.L. Turner, the Dairy Queen, and a couple other companies here in Zionsville, and then we moved to the Westons, built our first house there. In addition to that, when we moved back, I was a den leader for Cub Scouts for 3 years for Eagle Elementary. Got roped into being a PTO treasurer for a couple years, and people thought that I should keep on going, wouldn't let me have any time off. So now I'm foraying into this position.
Thank you very much. Joshua?
My name is Josh Garrett. My wife, 3 children, and I have lived in Zionsville now for 8 years over in Raintree. I'm also one of the co-founders and chief strategy officers at Moby. Our 200 employees are headquartered here in Zionsville, right there at the Northwest Technology Park. We've been here now for about 13 years. My role at Moby is looking in the future and looking forward to make sure that we, as a company, stay relevant in the marketplace. What I want to do is take those same skills from a town council standpoint and make sure that Zionsville stays relevant in many different factors. I also want to use my background as not only starting a business, but growing and running a business to try to lure other businesses in the area and tell my story about how Zionsville has been so good for my business and why it can be good for theirs as well. I'm also an entrepreneur, as you can tell, and I want to use that experience to try to grow additional businesses using services like ZWorks that's recently founded and I'm a founding member of, to try to find the next companies like Moby that can grow right here. I want to do all of that while still keeping the charm of Zionsville.
Thank you very much, Josh. Elizabeth?
Okay. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Hopper, and I currently serve as the District 4 Town Council Representative, and I'm seeking re-election. I've been I've resided in Zionsville with my family for close to 14 years. I've been an active community volunteer for over 15 years, working with the Zionsville Education Foundation, the Women's Fund, and the Children's Museum Guild, all while raising my 3 boys. My family and I chose to move to Zionsville for many reasons, the top being the first-class schools. The uniqueness and charm of the community and the relationships we have developed have made us satisfied that we made the right choice for our family. 4 years ago, I decided to run for this position. I was concerned with the direction our community was taking and wanted to be part of the decisions that would impact Zionsville for years to come. I am proud to be running on a record of accomplishments. The town has recently received many accolades, from the Google eCity Award to being recognized as the safest small town in America. I'm a strong supporter of tax-based diversification. The addition of Lids and FedEx, and not to mention the numerous other small businesses, has brought this positive AV growth.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tom Schuler. I'm your District 3 rep. I'm a career financial executive that have run companies from $5 to $500 million in size. I've also done a lot of public service here within Zionsville, working through the Lions Club, and you might even recognize me as Uncle Sam, but don't have my hat on tonight. 4 years ago, I set out with a platform that I wanted to have a positive impact on this community. And what I wanted to do, and what I told people I would do, was manage to a balanced budget, and we've done that. Initiate economic development, and as Ms. Hopper mentioned, FedEx, Lids, South Main Street, you've seen real results. Thirdly, I wanted to support the Zionsville school systems, and we've done that. We've worked on sharing resources with the town and Zionsville school systems. We've worked on the development of Creekside Corporate Park, which will have huge financial positive impacts to this community going forward. And we've supported a reasonable referendum. And all those things have allowed us to keep that school system a gem of this community, a top-rated in the country type school system that makes a great place for our kids to get educated and a great place for you to retain a home value. And finally, to improve transportation. During this time, we got a beautiful bridge built at Ford Road, and I want to keep improving transportation. You've seen it with Oak Street, Ford Road, and Zionsville Road.
Thank you. Kevin?
My name's Kevin Spees. I'm a lifelong resident here. I grew up just about to throw a baseball from here to there. Seen a lot of changes in Zionsville, some good, some bad. I've seen where they've made mistakes in the past. I'm a dentist. I've run a dental office here for 26 years, so I'm familiar with being a business owner and what all entails in that. One of the things I'd like to do is partner with the school to keep our school as strong as it is. Like Tom said, it's a gym that we have here, and just try to work with everything to keep it going in the right direction.
Thank you so much. We'll move into the second round here, and there's one question here in the second round, and that is going to be a question posed to all of you. And Mr. Asher, we'll start with you. It is, what is the biggest issue facing the town, and how would you address it if elected?
I think the biggest issue facing the town is something that actually probably spans several smaller issues, but it's fiscal. It's how do we diversify, how do we choose to diversify our tax base? Where do we put the commercial development that we absolutely need to support this town, and how to balance out the cost of educating children in this town with the potential growth in residency. It's an issue because we've lost the ability to control some of the kids that come into our town out in Anson. So we have to have a lot of foresight as to how this is going to go on. My main website will say that I want to preserve this village, this image that we have. It's so important to keep that. That is what drives people here. It is our thing, so we can't impinge upon that, yet we have good areas where we can grow commercial development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boggs?
Well, I think to go along with that, to a little bit about what he said, it is a responsible growth direction. I know recently we've heard numbers that we're probably in the 90 to 10% commercial to residential. But if you look at the comprehensive long-term plan, there's a lot of residential development planned for the northern part of town. So the question is how are we going to allow that growth to keep us from hurting or impacting our schools negatively? How are we going to keep our services going? So I think we have to find new ways and new strategies so we can continue to offer the services we have, continue to keep our schools strong, while growing, but maintaining that heritage and that essence of Zionsville. We have something unique here that brings families here, that brings businesses here. So let's take the areas that can develop and commercially and development, and those that should have residential, work on it so we don't keep continuing to have that imbalance, so we keep trying to strive for an 80-20, but we never seem to quite reach it. So I think that growth is probably the primary issue that I would focus on.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brewer?
I would definitely focus on growth and being fiscally responsible. I'm a CPA, and I actually am a very specialized CPA. I'm the only one in Indiana who's qualified with all the designations that I have to value businesses. So I work with small, medium, and large businesses every day, hundreds of them, over time, and with their financial statements, and I help them analyze their value and how to grow in value. I believe I can apply that knowledge base to businesses coming in and to existing businesses. One one of the problems I see is an empty Carter building and Rosie's Place being the second or third restaurant coming in to the same spot. I'd hate to see businesses fail. I would love to see them prosper in Zionsville and have the reputation in Zionsville of businesses that are coming in just like Josh's, of growing and adding more employees. And so I'd like to be able to help with that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrett?
So our company is expanding. We're expanding rapidly, and as I said, Zionsville's been a great partner. We are going from 25,000 to 55,000 square feet as a part of that expansion. The biggest issue for us as a business, and I think that we as a community face, is where do other businesses go? We don't have any inventory for them to go unless they're big enough, like a car, to actually build their own facility. So, one of my concerns is we actually had to move tenants out of our building and bribe them with a variety of means to get them out. They still stayed in Zionsville, but to put enough contiguous space together to actually continue to operate in Zionsville. If we don't have a plan in place to have other businesses like mine that are able to grow, and where do they grow into, I think we're going to start losing them to places like Carmel that have the North Carmel inventory of office space, to downtown, to other places that they may want to stay in Zionsville but have nowhere to go. We have a great footprint now with Z-Works starting out. That's for that one-person shop to get started, but where do they go when they have 5 people, 10 people, 50 people? If you lose them at that phase, they're never going to come back, and I want to work and figure out how to keep them once they start here.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Just a reminder that everybody, if they could speak into the microphone a little bit more clearly, that will help the folks in the back of the room, too. Ms. Hopper?
I do have to agree with a lot of what has been set up here already today. What we do need to do is take into consideration the need for tax-based diversification. I think we are well on our way. We've started 4 years ago and with this current council, and we have seen great things happen. I've already talked about LIDS. I've talked about FedEx. We've got Creekside being developed right now. We can look to the study done in 2012 from the EDC, the strategic plan. It's fabulous. It tells us what businesses will work in that area. So if we can use these tools that we have, work with people at the state, the IEDC, and get businesses here, start courting businesses in order to get the tax-based diversification, so that we do go down the path and because it is there is a need to strive for 80-20. It's not going to happen overnight, but having seen where we're moving, I'm very hopeful that we will be well on our way and would love to be part of that administration moving forward to get that done.
Thank you so much. Mr. Schuler?
Yeah, same theme. We need economic development, and I think the difference certainly between Elizabeth and I is that we've actually done it. We've done what was not done in this town. I moved here in 2000. There was no economic development of scale in this community till we took over the town council, and we brought in great businesses, and they've made great investments in this community. And that's the final straw. I look at this budget every day. I've run multi-$100-million budgets. I know how to run a business. I know how to grow a business. We've made the right investments, and we're doing the right things to make that happen. And we started from scratch. We started from a dead stop. And the one thing we had going for us was a great school system and a great community, great people. But we had no business infrastructure and no business momentum. And yet we've got it now, and you see it every day when you drive around this community. And I'm really proud of what we've done, and we just need to keep doing the same thing, quite frankly.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler. Mr. Spees?
I couldn't agree more, and I applaud the current town council for spreading that, because that's not always been the case for the town council in Zionsville. Like I said, I've been here all my life, and can look backwards and see some problems that they've done in the past, some things they've done in the past that just didn't make any sense at all. But that's all, things you can't change. But I think just moving forward, keeping a balanced budget. We need to live within our means. We see Carmel's at, $120 million debt now or something. We can't fall into that trap. We need to attract more businesses and just keep that ball rolling. We've got great corridors with 65 and 421. I think develop those with more businesses.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ashton?
The great thing about going last, if everyone got it right first, you can just say, I agree. But in seriousness, there's a real balance here, folks. I mean, when property tax caps went through back in 2008, I think ZCS was relying on property taxes to the tune of about 65% of their budget. We're sitting here now waiting for numbers from the state and the last go-round that came out of the Senate Appropriations Committee today that is slowly starting to make that better. But the only way we continue to find a way to support our schools, to support infrastructure in this town that we absolutely have to have, is to find a way to diversify that tax base. We need the next Moby to come in. But we not only need that, we need to make sure we have an attractive place for those companies and those CEOs to look at and say, I can move here without having trouble doing it. The town will be a partner. They will not be an adversary. They will not be a problem. They will work with me as a partner in business development. And I think that nuance is extremely important when we're trying to plan for the future.
Thank you so much. We'll move into the third round here of questions. 2 questions here in the third round. Again, a minute responses each. And both of these questions have been submitted by a Time Sentinel reader. The first one, Mr. Boggs, we'll start with you, is what do you consider appropriate economic growth?
Well, I think first and foremost, as we discussed, we need the economic growth to where we have a tax base that supports our schools and supports our infrastructure. We did a consolidation a few years back, and I don't think it's been completed. We still have some of us out there that get our services from the county. So I think in order for economic growth to occur, we've got to finish the consolidation. We've got to get all the services under house, consolidate where we can to control the budgets, and move forward. But it goes down to that nice mixture of residential and commercial and putting it in the right corridors. Eventually, we're going to be developing the 300, 146th Street, Ronald Reagan Parkway. So we have that opportunity. We have up Michigan Road. We do have down the Zionsville corridor. So I think, as everyone said, we can have a good mixture of commercial to residential and keep that balance and keep our budgets within line and balanced and to help us keep that economic growth going.
Thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Brewer.
Appropriate economic growth. We're actually kind of lucky right now. Whoever gets voted in, I think is pretty lucky because we had the crash of 2008. The last 7 years, economy has been going up, 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 up. The county income tax, the budget that we have right now for the town is about $17 million. I've been going through the budget, looking through some of the items in there, talked to the CPA firm who works with the town on this, and I wanted to get to know where we can save and where we can grow. One of the best things I found looking at this budget for the town, the income source, one of the biggest income sources is miscellaneous income, which comes from the county income tax. Well, right now we have about projected 13 or 14 million in there for the income. Well, I looked out on the state site, and we actually have about 15 million coming in. So there's another million, I believe, is coming in.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
It's hard to define because what's appropriate and what's not. Probably not tattoo parlors, but what is appropriate. I think a lot of folks say I want smart growth, but then when something comes close to them, they say, "Oh, I don't want that here, but I want smart growth." I think what you really need to do is you need to be a town that partners with developers and develops things that make sense. And that doesn't mean that everything makes sense in every single spot. So if you look at our village, if you look at downtown, that doesn't mean that you want 8-story apartment buildings there. Does that mean you don't want apartment buildings at all? Not necessarily, but they just need to fit into their surroundings. So I think if you put into place policies and work with developers and want to work with developers that want to work back with you. It's not just a one-way street. We want them here, but we want them to be here, and they need to partner with us and develop properties, whatever those might be, retail, commercial, apartment, residential, where they will take our considerations and our history in mind and make sure that it all fits in and blends together.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hopper?
Appropriate economic growth.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I believe that we need to continue on the current trajectory that we're on today. We've got strategic plans in place. We know where we should be putting things. I feel like I am repeating giving the same answer each time, but I do. I'm very proud of the work that we've achieved and want to move forward with that. And I think that what's important is that any project that we do needs to be thought about in terms long term. Right now, it's really easy to say I don't like it today, or I do like it today, but will it look good in our community? So therefore, anything that we have has to fit in with the unique nature of our community, has to work with the existing businesses. That's something that's very, very important, is that we want to maintain and retain current businesses to enhance the community as well. So appropriate economic growth, I believe, is just staying on the same trajectory.
Thank you. Mr. Schuler?
Ms. Hopper stole my thunder. I'm not happy about that, but I agree. I mean, I look at it a slightly different way. When I look at the development we put in place and the infrastructure under that, and what does that do for our existing businesses, the people that have already invested in Main Street, Zionsville, or Boone Village, and a big home run there is the more daytime population we can create in this community from large organizations like Lids or FedEx that are bringing people here during the day. They might not live here, they may live here. But if you've got more people near the near the business centers, more people out towards the highway working that can come to shop at Boone Village or that can come to shop at the Village, that's what's going to make the difference. Somebody mentioned that they really felt bad that the restaurants close from time to time or other businesses don't make it. Well, the reason they don't make it is they don't have enough traffic. And if they have enough traffic, which we could bring by bringing these right businesses, that we are already doing this. I mean, that's the great thing. I'm not sitting here talking or pontificating about it. We've already done it. We just need to keep doing it.
Thank you. Mr. Spies?
There's been a lot of times when Zionsville's boomed in the last 30, 40 years, and most of those booms have all been residential. As I said before, I think the current town council's done a nice job bringing in businesses and making the boom go that way instead of just residential to diversify that tax base. So I think we can just continue on that path that we're doing and bring more people in. And Tom's right. Zionsville used to be a shopping mecca. I can remember when buses of people would come in and flood Main Street to shop at different things. That doesn't happen anymore. So we need to kind of turn that around so we can get that same type of thing going so those businesses can thrive.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to the front.
I think this is a balance. I mean, I agree with what everyone else has said, but responsible economic development is going to mean a different thing to every person. For me, having been here 13 years, it may mean something different to someone who's been here 50 years. I don't know. I do think, though, and I think it was Josh that mentioned the important balance between working with businesses when they come into our town and doing this as a partnership. The Cardone development we saw over by the Enclave a couple of months ago. Was that the right place to put that? Maybe not. Was there an opportunity to have a discussion with them and work with them as partners to see where else could we send them? That they stay within Zionsville, we still get that tax revenue, but maybe it's not in the wrong place for us. Now, every company's different. Obviously, different companies have different personalities, and we should never become a hostage to corporate America. But I think it becomes a case-by-case analysis and a partnership with business. And that's the only way we're going to continue to, again, help our infrastructure, grow our schools, and do all the things we need to do here in town.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Mr. Ash?
Ditto, but, what do you want? What do you want for Creekside? Well, you want high dollar, low impact. You don't want warehousing. You want a tech park. You want something just like Lids, and that's great. The Village, destination spots. We have one destination spot in there. It's the Salty Cowboy. I've been in there 2 or 3 times. People come from the other side of Carmel to go to the Salty Cowboy. That is good. We need something else like that. I'd love to see the Carter Building.
Just lost Bob Goodman's vote, by the way.
Sorry, Bob. The development around the corridors is going to be necessary. 32, 106, and up Michigan Road. High dollar urban apartments, fine. Family friendly apartments that might bring in too many kids, and low density housing. I think we're looking at potentially having to build another school if we get overrun. Guess where that money comes from? The tax part.
Thank you. We'll go to the last question. Again, this was submitted by a Times Sentinel reader. And Mr. Brewer, we'll start with you on this one. As new projects are proposed, traffic concerns continue to be an issue, yet the town's budget for streets has remained stagnant. How would you address this problem?
The traffic problem? How would I address the traffic problem? Well, we've done traffic studies for different projects that we've seen. I believe the town has had firms do those to see what the effects and impacts of the traffic would be pretty much when any large project comes in. So I'd pretty much turn to the same thing that they've been doing is if we've got a large project coming in, let's look at what not only the traffic studies, but also the entire. There's a 150-page document sitting on this website for the town that has every plan that they were starting out with for the 2020 plan, I believe it's called. And I think a lot of that's being followed, and I urge everybody to look at some of it because the comments and questions, they interviewed a lot of the residents around town, and a lot of the feeling of the residents that went into this report are in there. And so we need to listen to what the residents have said in this and go with the feeling of the town.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
So my wife and I just got back from L.A., and traffic here doesn't sound nearly as bad as spring break. I don't know how to fix traffic, but I would certainly look to experts to do that. I think there's two things. One is there's a bit of a bottleneck downtown. I think our council has done a good job in locking up the land around there, both the Citgo station and the old bank, so that we can at least address that. So it's in our own hands, and we're not having to rely on someone else to fix that for us. I think part of it is a budget issue, and the budget, as Brett knows as an accountant, certainly can only go so far. So if you take from one place, you're borrowing from another. It all gets back really to economic development. If you can grow the tax base commercially, you can have more funds that are coming in that can then go to things like the streets department, like the parks department. So they're very much interrelated. So that's really where my expertise hopefully comes in helping bringing those businesses that can produce the revenue that can then go to the streets where they can figure out how to fix the traffic.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Hopper?
Repeat the question, please.
Absolutely. As new projects are proposed, traffic concerns continue to be an issue, yet the town's budget for streets has remained stagnant. How would you address this problem?
Okay, well, the budget for the roads currently, with respect to new projects coming in, any project has to pay road impact fees, which can then be, the fees could then be used to make road improvements to any areas that are adjacent to that new development. Additionally, if we can tip a project, you can use the monies from the tip in order to pay for improvements as well. So there are other ways that it would not have to come out of the existing budget. You can find out the from either coming in when a developer is proposing a project and having them make the road improvements. So there are many different avenues to get the funding to actually make the road improvements that will not have to impact the taxpayer.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Schuler?
Yeah, well, I would disagree that the budget has been stagnant. Has it been as much as we want? No, but actually I just looked at the budget today, and we've increased from 13 to 14 to 15. And we've had some great projects in place. There's been a lot of positive work done on Oak Street, on Ford Road. We have our first roundabout coming in, and I know a lot of people are worried about it, but I think we've seen the success. I know because I drive east-west through Carmel, and it makes a huge difference. In addition, we took over the PNC land, which provides a lot of flexibility on our side, as was previously mentioned, and that was a very strategic, forward-thinking position that we took. So with regard to the concern, and to add in what Ms. Hopper said about the impact fees, so we actually have a mechanism to handle incremental change. Now, there are probably some larger arterial changes that might need to be made. Those are a lot tougher. Those take a lot of dollars and a lot of forethought, and we've had some disagreement in the town about arterial changes. There's been a lot of fighting of it, a lot of outside influence that has shut all that down. So we've looked to other ways to marginally improve that, and we continue to spend more money on transportation than we did in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Spees?
Yeah, we've got a traffic problem in Zionsville. Talking with the chief of police and the sheriff, it seems to be more of a northwest problem than an east-west problem. So I think we need to open up some things there. I'm not as familiar with the current council members with the budget and where all the money's come from and how that works. So I've never done this before. But we do need to figure a way to do that and open up some other things. There's some things in the plan that I did look at, the interchange at 865 and Cooper Road. I know that was a lot of people were against that, but I'm not so sure that doesn't make sense, and it might be something we need to look at again. Making some changes to the, I live on the west end of town and deal with that 334. Maybe making some changes to that intersection there at 465 or at 65 and 334 will make things move closer and better. The way you talked about making some changes on Main Street, I know that bottleneck's really bad there, going through the S turns and stuff. But I don't know enough about traffic to know what could be done and what would be the right way to do it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ashton?
I agree with Kevin. I mean, I'm certainly not going to tell you I'm a traffic expert. What I do know is, and it keeps all coming back to economic development, you can't build roads, you can't build bridges if you don't have any money. And we need to stay within our budget. But the key is how do you add revenue? Obviously, it's economic development, all the things we've talked about already. We do have a traffic problem heading east-west. I work downtown get stuck on 334 every single day trying to get downtown. It's very, very difficult. I don't disagree. We may need to look at the connector. I haven't seen the studies on the impact of that to some folks, but we need to consider it. Frankly, we need to consider everything on these issues, but for anything that could negatively impact the historic downtown district, because candidly, I would much rather sit in traffic and wait to get through downtown than ever interfere with what downtown really is.
Thank you. Mr. Roush?
Traffic's a tricky issue. As much of an east-west problem that it is, building a north-south corridor can relieve it. I look at the current transportation plan, which calls for extending Cooper Road in a pretty wide boulevard up north to more east-west and to the northern neighborhoods. That would get people off Oak Street. That's in the transportation plan. I would rather do that now and other aspects of the transportation plan before we would actually consider the 865 interchange again and see how much we can alleviate the problem. Certainly federal funding, state funding, if it's at all possible, probably limited to state roads, 421, 32. But if we can route people around efficiently and then get them down to where they need to be, it seems to me that's what we're stuck doing at the current moment. I don't see getting through the village east-west as there's no good way to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Boggs?
I agree. If you look at the long-term comp plan and you look at the traffic plan that was done some years ago, our roads are not up to standards even as of 2010 back then. I think one of the things we do need to look at is what the existing structures are. And what I also believe is we need to partner with our sister communities. I know Whitestown recently proposed a $1.6 million enhancement to the interchange out there at 334 and 65, and they were willing to contribute to it. I think Zionsville needs to step up. I think Boone County needs to step up in the state to alleviate that choke point. And then as you work your way across 334, I applaud the town council for finally coming to roundabouts. I was hesitant about them, but they do reduce accidents by 80%. And Carmel has shown they can work. So all up and down the 334 corridor, Kissel, 700, Cooper Road, even down at 96, let's work with Indianapolis. Let's get those roads to par, let's get them flowing before we look at taking drastic actions and putting ourselves further in debt when we can fix what we have. And hopefully that will help us get east and west and north and south.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Time Sentinel readers that gave us the questions, and thank you to all of you for spending some time, Mr. Ashton, Mr. Ausch, Mr. Boggs, Mr. Brewer, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Hopper, Mr. Schuler, and Mr. Spies. All right, this is our last group here this evening. And the questions should be a familiar set. So we're going to have 3 rounds again, a 1-minute introduction. The second round will be the general question, and then the third round, more specific from our Times Sentinel readers. So we have 3 folks here, Jeff Papa, Susana Suarez, and Brian Traylor, who are going to be joining us here for Zionsville Town Council. And we'll start first with a 1-minute introduction. And Mr. Papa, floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll try to get through. I don't think I can get through this list. One thing I want to do in the introduction is...
I think you turned it off.
Okay. Can you hear now?
Yep. I think we're good.
Thank you. In my introduction, I want to say that the current town council and all of our partners have us on the right track. And just a few, I know the previous candidates listed a lot of accomplishments, but there's more than was listed there. There's the growth in Smart IT and Moby and HC1, the FedEx investment of over $40 million, Lids bringing their corporate HQ and over 350 jobs, the Creekside Corporate Park Development partnership with the schools, the development of South Main Street and all new retail choices there and tax revenue from that, our partnership with Z-Works to bring co-working space to the town to serve as an incubator. The time we gained control of the PNC property for many reasons. It was very forward-thinking. We are partnering with many of the communities around us on projects. We're working with the county to improve 96th Street and Zionsville Road, 96th Street itself. Many other projects like that. We're working with Whitestown to build the pathway. We coordinate on the Ford Road Bridge construction. Many projects we do coordinate on. And we've coordinated very much with the schools as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Suarez?
Hi, thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for our wonderful moderator. I was just feeling slightly underachieved over here, but I first and foremost, I'm here because of my 2 beautiful little girls sitting back there using all our electronic devices. Hi, girls. And my husband, Kiko. We moved to this community 7-8 years ago now because we really did fall in love with it, and I have got to tell you that serving on the council for the last 4 years has made me fall in love with it more because the most important resource and the most important asset we have are the people of Zionsville. It's not anything else. They are welcoming, they're warm, they're friendly, and they're incredibly helpful. And for us to continue investing in that resource is the most important thing we can do as your elected officials, to give you that voice, to give you that opportunity to be heard. And I am running again because I know our work in this council is not done. You have heard from all my fellow council members how far we have come, but there's so much more work to be done. We need to implement a lot of what we have started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Trailer.
Yes, I think you all need to know why I ended up in Zionsville. I ended up in Zionsville 12 years ago. Met a lovely young lady at college, and she basically told me that if I wanted to marry her, I was moving to Zionsville. So I had to figure out what was so special about this town. Quite frankly, she was right. I can't imagine at this point living anywhere else. We've got 3 kids. My kids are 4th generation Zionsville, 4th generation actually rural Union Zionsville. And the biggest reason I'm here is to protect what is Zionsville for my kids when they raise their kids here. We need to protect our schools, protect our small businesses, make it easier for small businesses to come into Zionsville. And that's what I hope to achieve here.
Thank you so much. We'll move right into the question. The second round, the only question, it'll be the same to all of you. Ms. Suarez, we'll start with you. It's submitted by a Times Sentinel reader. What do you consider appropriate economic growth?
I think the term appropriate is a little bit tricky because it assumes that we have complete control of the, commercial hordes that are beating down our doors. And the reality of it is that it takes a tremendous amount of work through economic development partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce, with economic development corporations, with Boone County, as well as with the state of Indiana, to figure out not only what is out there that we want to draw in, but where is the best fit. I truly believe that a balanced mix in our commercial, our agricultural, and our residential representation in this town will be the way that we're going to be able to continue moving forward while protecting our way of life here and what we stand for.
Thank you very much. Mr. Trailer.
I think appropriate depends on where it is. We have a lot of great areas of Zionsville that we can put a lot of different kinds of businesses. So there's not one or two particular types of businesses that'll fit here. We can fit a lot of different kinds of businesses here just depending on where they go. There are locations for just about everything within Zionsville without disrupting Zionsville. I also serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so I know that if there are businesses coming to town that don't fit into the ordinances that we currently have, we have some really spectacular people that are basically volunteering for this town to help allow variances where variances are due without harming the town.
Thank you. Mr. Pablo.
Well, in my opening, I mentioned several of the partners. I have a list that goes on, and obviously can't say them all in a minute. So you see what kind of things we have thought were appropriate. Just a couple of things for context. One, many of these large residential developments that people are talking about coming in the northern areas in the future and have been built were actually approved by the county prior to the first reorg, and they had the right to do that as long as they didn't need variances. And also in context, I think people would be surprised to hear this criticism all the time about horrible things coming, but I think you'd be amazed to know the number of projects that we've actually turned down and rejected because they were too big, they didn't fit right, they weren't in the right place, they needed variances that didn't go, or there were things that didn't fit with the equestrian nature of the town or the unique charm of the village. We've had a lot of potential development projects that we've said absolutely no to or come back and try again because they did not fit. They weren't in the right place, they weren't the right project at the right time. But at the same time, I'm proud of what this council has been able to draw to town and work with to develop.
Thank you. Mr. Trailer, next question is to you. What is the biggest issue facing the town, and how would you address it if elected?
I said this a few times in some other events, but quite frankly, this town's not broken. There are some really great plans in place. We need to stay on track with those plans. The town council that we have in place has done some some spectacular things. With my time on the Chamber of Commerce, I spent 6 years on the Chamber of Commerce, 2 years as president there. I think that the biggest thing we can address is making it easier for small businesses to come into Zionsville and do business in Zionsville.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pablo?
Well, as I think everybody has stressed, all the candidates have stressed economic development and the need for that revenue. There was some suggestion that there's a lot of income tax revenue coming that might solve a lot of our problems. I'm not sure that's true. When the tax cuts came in, it really, really squeezed Zionsville because we had the highest rate of residential tax base in the state, high 90%. This council has been able to get back to a balanced budget from that hole we were put in, and that's great, and there is more revenue coming, but at the same time, to get to that balanced budget without firing police officers, without firing firemen and other professionals, and without cutting critical services, we've delayed a lot of necessary maintenance, routine maintenance, ongoing maintenance schedules, and we've also put off a lot of infrastructure projects that need to be done in the medium term and the long term, so that there is still a need for that revenue.
Appreciate it. Ms. Suarez?
I think that there's a couple things to look at as you look at the challenges that we're going to have in the years to come. And, I was astounded when I saw that on the dais in the previous panel, the only female on that dais was Mrs. Hopper. And I am so happy to know that she is running for re-election, and I hope that you'll vote her in, because diversity and our ability to do business and to be inclusive is a big part of our charm. I would say that the biggest challenge we're going to have moving forward is investing in ourselves as a town, investing in our staff, investing in our efficiency, investing in our processes, so that the businesses that do come see a quick economic development process, and that the people that want to pay their bills can do it quickly, that we no longer have antiquated mechanisms by which we operate, and that we actually enter into the next centuries with a tremendous amount of infrastructure that we can quickly turn around projects and make living in Zionsville pleasant, safe, invest in our police, invest in our fire, invest in our infrastructure so that we can continue to grow.
Thank you so much. And the third round here, our last question for all three of you, submitted by a Time Sentinel reader. As you heard earlier, as new projects are proposed, traffic concerns continue to be an issue, yet the town's budget for streets has remained stagnant. How would you address this issue? Jeff, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that question was answered very well by Ms. Hopper earlier in her answer, that when projects do come, they have to pay impact fees. And those projects, we look at those projects very closely. The Plan Commission does, the BZA does, to make sure that they're not creating more of an impact than they're paying for. And all that's worked in the long-term plan. And sometimes we can work with them and get extra benefit to other residents around them by working with that project. But again, the funding is key to increase the infrastructure in the future.
Thank you very much. Ms. Suarez?
Yeah, I would have to echo what Mr. Garrett said earlier, as well as Mr. Schuler, that the reality of it is that the investment in our physical infrastructure, like traffic or things of that nature, are going to be focused on where the money comes from. We have increased the budget. We have actually made a tremendous amount of inroads in making sure our streets are paved, that they're working, and just major repairs that had to be done. Traffic problems are actually long-term problems. We strayed from our long-term plans. We need to revisit that. But the reality of it is that we are much better off than we were before. We're a growing community. We're going to have these challenges. And investing and bringing in the money to be able to hire the professionals to figure that out is going to be key.
Thank you very much. Mr. Trailer.
I mean, really, they've summed it up very well. I mean, it's getting the experts that can help us in that direction of, we've got development going on. That's going to happen. These things are just going to happen. So we've got to get the experts in place. We have those. But the bigger thing is that I kind of want to address with my last minute is that Zionsville is a destination. Zionsville as a whole is a destination. It is not one business. It's all the businesses. As former president of the Chamber of Commerce, I take great offense to anybody that thinks that there is only one destination in Zionsville. This place is made up of fantastic businesses that we should all be incredibly proud of. We don't all have to agree on everything, but this is a fantastic town to live in, and it is the sum of the parts that makes this the destination, not one restaurant. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was the last question. So I'd like to thank Greta, the Zionsville Times-Sentinel, the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce. Julie, thank you so much for all your efforts. The school, Jane Johnson, Dr. Robinson. Pleasure to moderate. Jeff Papa, Susana Suarez, Brian Trailer, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
Everybody come out and vote.